The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
Hi everybody, it's Mark Kelly here. We've got John Barber. John is running his own consultancy firm and he's helping companies, small and big, maximize the value of ServiceNow. John, thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mark. Thank you for having me.
So, John, you've been in the world of ServiceNow for a while now. So you've worked in the company in the past, and you've actually had a very good understanding of the platform and some of the pitfalls that people can fall down if they're not actually given the right advice and how to maximize the platform. Can you tell us a little bit of an overview about your work as an architect and the kind of the blueprint that you work with to help customers?
Right. Yeah. So I'm kind of in a unique situation where I worked frontline IT service management. I was there for the first implementation of at Expedia. And then from there, I went to ServiceNow and helped them with their problem management and getting that program off the ground and some of that. From there, I saw the need in the industry to have smaller and medium-sized companies have the same sort of enterprise um, service improvement, service design, service transition work. And so I branched out on my own and took it from there, and found a lot of success in helping those companies. Now, saying that, I still get approached by several enterprise-sized companies, and I do take them on as clients and help them as well. Uh, Everyone needs this level of help in rethinking about how they approach process, and then how ServiceNow helps enable that process instead of the idea of ServiceNow being the one-stop everything process and tooling.
Can you tell us a little bit about the desire to go out on your own? Was it something that it's always good to share with listeners. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of motivates you to go on that journey?
Yeah, I really had the desire to help. I really am an enemy of waste. I don't like waste. And my wife runs this really small company, and I would have several friends in the industry that were, more medium-sized businesses, and they would just tell me about the struggles that they were encountering trying to just operate. And they couldn't hire more staff, they couldn't do anything more, but the demands on their operations teams were just getting out of control. So that really sparked me to want to go and help them and remove some of that copy and paste waste that they're in, and help them, really think about their processes and what they really needed at a minimum viable product level, and then bring that um, into a real operational process so that they could get the most out of their time and productivity.
And we talk about kind of small and medium-sized companies that are kind of suffering from lack of service design. What are you kind of seeing? Why does this happen? I'm sure when people wake up in the morning, they don't actually go to work to want to, not to do things well or effectively. What are some of the reasons do you see?
I think the main reason that I see when I'm out there is people just get themselves into a rut where they're just in constant firefighting mode. They put out the fire, and then they go and try to get their productivity done, and the next fire happens and they just do it. So they're encountering the same problems over and over again. And they're not taking the time to stop and think, okay, how can I prevent this from happening again, in the classic problem management respect. So there's that. And then people just get used to how they're doing things. And we've always done it this way, is the words I hate the most, right? um, because that just it usually doesn't scale. You're just handling everything over email and that sort of stuff, and you just get used to it, and that just becomes your norm. And you need someone to come in and kind of shake you out of your apathy, right?
Yeah. And which clients would you say are the best fit for you?
I really cater to all levels. I have more interest in the real medium-sized companies. They're big enough to invest in ServiceNow, but they're not, the enterprise level where they're going to get every bell and whistle. So they need to get the most out of uh, their instance that they can, right? Um, and I'm not exclusive to ServiceNow. I just happen to know it so well that happens to be always my clients. Um, but that sort of medium moving towards enterprise, wanting to scale towards enterprise is where I can be the most effective, because I can help them avoid the pitfalls that a lot of companies fall into, just trying to open this box and have it work for them right out the bat without thinking about their process and that sort of stuff.
So you're kind of a bit of a part detective, kind of part lobbyist.
Very much so, yes. So where I found a unique niche for myself is, I can go in and I can speak to every level of sponsor, stakeholder, developer, user, operations team, and I can help them explain from their perspective with a lot of empathy for their roles, um, why this process change is going to be important and how ServiceNow is going to help them be more efficient and effective at executing that process than they ever have in the past, or maybe they've never used that process before and they don't really understand it. But um, I can help in that transition and adoption, and speaking to all levels so people understand the real business value they're going to get by not only utilizing this tool, but rethinking about their processes and the outcomes that they want to get using that tool, right? Because ServiceNow is just a means to an end. It's not the end in itself. And a lot of people don't think about that end when they're getting ServiceNow. They just know they need IT service management or um, case management, that sort of stuff. They don't really think about what they're trying to achieve and the best way to do it for them. And that's where I help.
So being able to build relationships and really understand that end customer is important. So you're not, I guessing, just relying on email as a communication tool.
Right. Yeah, I hate email. I do my best to get my clients out of email. Luddy himself, when he made ServiceNow, he just had a big disdain for email. It's it's ineffective. You can't report on it. You can't do any trend on it. You can't see which customers are bothering you the most, uh, where you're having the most issues, and that sort of stuff. And that's the whole purpose of ServiceNow, right? So, um, going back to that topic of this is the way we've always done it, people are just very comfortable with email. That's what they know, that's what they're familiar with, that's what they're comfortable with. But it comes with a lot of negatives. And helping people to understand that and then use dashboards or agent workspace or all these fantastic tools in ServiceNow to really um, remove themselves from the unproductive context switching world of email and help them really focus on their work and get the most out of their time and their day can really save companies huge amounts of dollars in just lost productivity and that context switching, and help them get more productivity with the staff doing more interesting things that really engages them than they've ever seen before. So they don't have to necessarily hire that extra staff to handle the load as they scale. They can just simply get it out of productivity, and that's the big goal, right?
Why are people slow to move away from email? You kind of mentioned, the benefits of having really effective dashboards as an example, but
Mhm.
people do love email, and it seems more and more people are kind of avoiding phone calls, meeting in person, engaging. I recently went to Starbucks, and a person just walked in, used their app, walked back over, picked up their coffee, rather than just walk up to the cashier. I just couldn't get my head around why they did that. But there's a section in Starbucks for doing that, and a section in
Mhm.
Starbucks for walking up and engaging. I thought it'd be quicker just to go up and collect the coffee, but again, that's me. What do you? But this probably could be a separate podcast by itself on
Yeah,
that
probably
topic.
could. The world of coffee. Uh, Well, part of it might be people haven't had their coffee yet before, and they don't really want to engage with people until they've had their coffee on that note. But, um, you know, to some extent, it maybe is they just they feel so overwhelmed, so overloaded that that just seems the faster method, right? Um, I can just ping them an email and the problem's done, right? I don't have to engage with them, and I can move on to the 50 other things that are on my backlog to get done. So I think maybe people probably get themselves into this anxiety of all the work that they have behind them, and they don't stop to really have that engagement with people, which is so critical to the success of business, right? I mean, we're people doing business with people, and and you don't have that, and that's where dashboards and in things like Agent Workspace can really pay off because um, that work queue is right there. It's very focused on my work and it's prioritized. And if I can figure those dashboards well, so that they are very specific to what I need to get done, or the decisions I need to make for the business, then I can remove some of that anxiety that is the 100 emails that I haven't read yet. I'm very focused on what needs to happen now in a very prioritized way that is very focused on the needs of the business and my clients and customers.
So I think it is very important to manage expectations with customers, knowing that when they do opt in for a service now, it's not as straightforward as just opening up the box and you just jump in and kind of crack on across the organization. You do need proper advice and implementation tips and tricks along the way from a trusted advisor to really make sure that you don't fall down the rabbit holes that can just make the journey not as pleasant as it could be.
Right, right. And a big part of that too is reevaluating your process. You're buying this great new tool. Um, the way you have operated up to this point may not work so well in ServiceNow, right? And trying to make ServiceNow do the way you've always worked may actually be shooting yourself in the foot to get what you really want. So at big times of change like that, or even realizing that maybe you configured ServiceNow poorly when you first started, and now it's not giving you what you wanted, and your users are saying ServiceNow sucks and stuff like that. ServiceNow never sucks. ServiceNow is a fantastic tool. It's how you get configured, right? So you really need a process expert, someone who's been on that front line, who's been the incident manager, who's been the problem manager, the change manager, and then evolved into improving those processes like I have to help you either get on the right foot and get that business value out of ServiceNow right out the door if it's a fresh implementation, or to reevaluate your processes, bring it closer to out of the box to make your upgrades to new versions simple and more effective with a lot less testing, um, by helping you understand where you fell into those pitfalls and help you figure a way to pull that out. I like to think of myself as a ladder to get you out of the hole on some of those more where I'm trying to help my clients mature their processes and improve their ServiceNow experience.
And so we understand the importance of getting customizations right and following a process and just not trying to rethink the wheel and how we approach things. Governance is a word that we're hearing more and more, and managing these different aspects of that has become very, very important. How effective can a good dashboard be for organizations to drive through certain deliverables?
It's critical. I think the key word there, though, is good dashboard, right? I can't tell you how many awful dashboards I've seen that tell nobody anything because the widgets weren't well thought out. It's just like a list of raw data, or it's not really focused on any sort of story. What's this widget trying to tell me? Or I've seen dashboards that have 100 different widgets on it on one tab, and people don't realize that those widgets actually take processor power in the background, and they can quickly affect the performance of your instance. If you've got 100 people using a dashboard that has 100 widgets on it, it can really wreck your system performance. So I don't think a lot of people realize that. But the main point that people need to understand who are listening to this podcast is you want to keep the dashboard simple. And for the most part, other than I would say agent workspace, where you're trying to manage a work queue in a prioritized way, you really want to ask yourself, what are the decisions I need to make with this dashboard? On the Innovation Lab at the last Knowledge I went to last year, there was a really great dashboard that they brought out that the CIO of ServiceNow himself wanted, called the CIO dashboard. So it's in the Innovation Lab. And that's a really good foundational thing that shows what I'm talking about that I really liked is the dashboard to help you make a decision. And the widgets actually are labeled with the decision I'm making with this data. Are we doing better this month than we were last month at getting an agent assigned within 2 hours? That sort of stuff. Taking the time to really think, okay, what am I trying to govern here? And let's build the simplest dashboard we can that tells us that information with as few widgets as possible.
Yeah, it's crucial because before you embark on ServiceNow, you've done things in a certain way and you've used, maybe a different platform, or maybe you haven't had a platform. And the chances are there's blind spots. And then the first thing you think about is, well, we've done it this way, so let's carry on and let's add all these different aspects. But maybe those things weren't serving you, and chances are they probably weren't serving you. So it's a really great opportunity to do a reset and actually think, okay, what's the most important things? What do we really need? What's important in our business? Let's get some perspective on this from people who've been in the field and get some other thoughts, and let's stand on the shoulders of giants here rather than try to reinvent the wheel and get it right. And it's funny, even on my smartwatch, I love playing around with the dashboards on this,
Yep.
which is the watch faces, because
Right.
it's telling me different things, different
Mhm.
insights. And I was thinking, actually, yeah, that's more important. This isn't important. And there's 3 icons here that I never pay attention to. So why do I even have them
Exactly.
on the real estate, right? And so it's kind of bringing that back to those decision makers, because everybody is, it's got less time than ever.
Right.
We're easily distracted, so many different things happening at any one time. So we just need to keep that simple world. But I love to hear where you're working with stakeholders and you're saying, okay, this is what we're driving, this is what we're delivering. And then you're looking at that dashboard and you're saying, actually, can that clearly articulate to our stakeholders what our vision is, how we're doing on that vision, and this is what we've done? Because now more than ever, what have you done with me lately is
Right.
becoming the key
Right.
question, right?
And
So
how do I
it,
prove with data that
yeah,
I've provided that return on the investment that you gave us to build out ServiceNow or to
yeah,
change that problem management process? That sort of thing.
absolutely. But also as a good point to say, okay, this is where we're at from a status update perspective. These are our kind of key goals. Are these still important to you? Keep reminding
Right.
people, are they still important?
Right.
Because if they're not, let's change it, because we're all part of the same team here, and this is a clear golden thread, because we know when things start to go awry is
Hmm.
because mismanaged expectations, clearly, ill-defined objectives or goals, and the
Right.
business is moving so fast because we're dealing with so many different types of
Well, and
headwinds.
businesses change their goals every year, if
Yeah.
not faster, right? And you've got bonus goals. I mean, how great is it for employees to know uh, mid-year how well they're tracking towards their goals, and maybe they need to reevaluate what they're doing so that they can achieve those goals for the business, because it's all about business value, right?
Yeah. And John, we're kind of closing up. What kind of summary would you provide to the listeners who want to kind of take action?
um really understand what outcomes you're trying to achieve before you jump in, right? um get those experts in there and really have them help you ask the questions you might not know you need to ask for yourselves. Uh, what am I trying to achieve here? Have I thought about this? Another big key element is you really want people who can come in who can uh, bring that user empathy back, right? We're so stuck in our jobs. We're so in the weeds with our development, our operations, that sort of stuff, even as stakeholders and running the business or sponsors and finding the funding and making sure budgets are well spent, that we stop we we I always find that people forget that there's users using these forms, the service catalog, these incidents, that sort of stuff, and they have jobs, they're busy too, and you don't want to affect their productivity by asking them a bunch of questions that they don't need to answer, or giving them a dashboard with a bunch of data that isn't really relevant to what they do. You've really got to target to the user and have empathy for the user, and enable them to be the most productive, best uh, employees, clients, what have you, that they can be.
Thank you very much for your time, John Barber. You've been listening to the Alldus ServiceNow podcast series, and I've been speaking to John Barber, and John is working for Streamliner. If you're interested to find out a little bit more about John, there'll be more details on our show notes. John, thanks again for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Great conversation. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.